Hello cover stitchers. Today I'm going to talk about how to end your cover stitching and remove your fabric so your stitches are locked and secure and won't unravel. The trick to this is to bring your threads to the back of your project, in other words the underside. So the process for this is I'm stitching along, I want to remove my fabric, raise the needles to the highest position, lift the presser foot. Now I want to swipe from back to front underneath the presser foot. I've seen this demonstrated. Other people will put the tool on top of the presser foot between the needles and the presser foot. That works too. I think there's less room, so I like to do this swipe under the presser foot between my fabric and the presser foot. Some people like to use a crochet hook. If you have a plastic one, that might not be a bad idea, but I don't like to have anything metal against my presser foot. So and it needs something kind of flat. So I use this little turning tool. Anyway, then you're going to pull the thread toward you to make a loop. Now this tends to torque the needles, and I worry about that, so I don't like to do that. So what I like to do is pull a loop of thread loose above, so I'm not torquing on my needles. And I get it to the point where I've got about 4 inches of loop here, from here to here. Now you can cut, some videos I've seen they'll just say cut those 2 needle threads, or 3 if you've got 3 needles, but I like to cut the entire loop off. It helps the threads untwist, and you can see them kind of flip and unravel there. Step 4 is to pull this out at 10 o'clock. So let's say noon is straight back, and it pull at about 10 o'clock. Sometimes you got to give it a little tug. Don't force it, don't want to bend the looper, but just go tug. Usually I go tug, 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 and then look at that. The threads are no longer on the front there. The threads are now on the back. You still have to cut your looper, so cut your looper thread. Then your threads have all been pulled to the back, and your stitch is secure, it won't unravel. The beginning you don't have to worry about. It locks itself at the beginning automatically. You can just cut those off, or if you're cover stitching in the round, you come back around and just go right over a few of those stitches. But that locks, which is why when you're trying to remove your cover stitching, it won't work too well to go back to the beginning and start trying to pick. You want to start picking from where you stopped, because the start locks itself. So sometimes I will tie these threads in a knot or put fray check on, and that is really not necessary. The fray check on my neck bands is more about preventing my serging from unraveling. There are other ways to remove your fabric. Some machines, not too many, but some machines you can actually chain off on. Okay? On this machine you can chain off. I don't find that very useful because, well, for one thing, this isn't secure. It can unravel because I didn't bring the threads to the back. And the other thing is, now if the next thing I'm going to do here is hem in the round, I've got this chain kind of in the way. It's harder to get started. But if you don't want to go through the process of bringing the threads to the back, like say you're going to be making a whole bunch of stitch samples, what you can do is start with a leader, and this can be handy for getting your stitching going for a lot of situations. So I start with that. Now here's my sample of my fabric. I want to test the stitching, and I don't want to bring the threads to the back over and over. So I do my sample, and then I run it onto, I'm pretending I can't chain off here if I have a machine that doesn't chain off. I run it off onto my little leader ender, and then I can just cut off my fabric, and I can look at it and say, oh yeah, maybe I'll try this adjustment. Here's another trick, just to use your thumb to lift up the presser foot. I do that on the serger all the time too. Now I can again go to another test, put another little sample in there, go onto my ender, and cut it off. So that's, if you're just doing samples and you don't want to have to bring the thread to the back, that's a really easy way to stop and start. there's one other way that you can start and stop your stitches, and that is by turning the hand wheel. Now these, I'm going over ways here that aren't going to secure your stitches, and this will not. The first way is the way you do it to secure your stitches. So let's say I'm sewing along and I want to stop and get my fabric out, and I don't care if I secure my stitches. Maybe I even don't want to lock my stitches because maybe I want to, maybe I already know it went badly and I'm going to be removing them, or maybe I'm going to need to seam up the ends of some binding. So what I do is I rotate the wheel toward me until the needles are in the fabric all the way down. Then I'm going the opposite direction. I'm turning the hand wheel right now away from me until those needles are all the way up. And I raise my presser foot, and look, they did not lock, they did not get pulled to the back. If I cut those off, that stitch is not locked. See, it's not locked. I didn't lock it. But that can, if you want to unlock your stitches, if you you know, like if it's stuck or something, you can use that method, real simple. If you, alternately, if you have some problem and you're unable to pull your threads to the back, you can thread up a needle and stitch by hand to lock them. You can also go over them with a zigzag or a straight stitch on your regular machine if you need to pin down that end and you haven't been able to lock them using the other method. Hope that helps. Bye.